As she approached menopause, she suddenly had the wild idea of undergoing in vitro fertilization. While using the restroom, she reread a public account post she had come across last month. After waiting 3 months for her period, it finally arrived 2 days ago in a light drizzle. Now, just 2 days later, it seemed to be drying up again. She mocked herself, thinking if women were like fruit, she was once a big, ripe date. But now, after years of wear and tear, she was more like a dried date. Lu Sui returned to her seat, and her phone, which was on the table, started vibrating. She glanced at it. It was her son He Jihua's homeroom teacher calling, and she quickly and respectfully answered. It turned out that He Jihua had once again scored the lowest in his class on the math test. If the test content was difficult, that would be one thing, but this test was all basic material. Even the weakest students should have been able to get points. He Jihua's mom, do you understand what I'm saying? The homeroom teacher was unreserved over the phone, her sharp tone piercing Lu Sui's ears like a needle. Lu Sui felt her entire head buzzing, but she reflexively responded, I understand, Ms. Li. As she spoke, she got up and left the booth in the restaurant. She didn't want anyone, especially the person sitting across the table, to overhear the conversation. The homeroom teacher, full of energy, continued to chatter, many students who usually fail pass this time. To be blunt, 80 points on the test were practically giveaway points. 4/5 of the class scored over 80. Lu Sui felt a wave of dizziness. Similar tones, similar content. She didn't know how many times she had spoken those words condescendingly throughout her life. Who would have thought that now? It was her turn to be on the receiving end. And she could only listen submissively. She listened carefully. This 4th grade math test, He Jihua was one of only 2 students who failed. The second to last student scored 57 points. He Jihua only scored 38. The homeroom teacher emphasized that He Jihua was not only last but also significantly behind the second to last. Lu Sui quickly admitted her mistakes. First, she acknowledged that as a mother, she had failed in many ways, causing the teacher undue concern. Then she admitted she lacked methods and didn't know how to educate her child, asking the teacher for guidance. The young homeroom teacher, not yet 30, was pleased by the flattery and began to eloquently discuss methods and philosophies of educating children. Lu Sui's headache intensified to the point of explosion. She sighed inwardly. Indeed, karma always comes around and heaven spares no one. The homeroom teacher had no idea about Lu Sui's professional background. If she did, she would either mock Lu Sui to death or be too scared to speak in her presence. No acquaintance would have ever imagined it. 10 years ago, Lu Sui was the homeroom teacher who led 4 consecutive graduating classes to the highest average college entrance exam scores in the city. She was the homeroom teacher of the top-performing classes, producing the city's top scorer for 4 consecutive years. A highly respected special grade teacher in a key high school, the most popular homeroom teacher in the city, and the teacher whose class every student needed connections to join. Who would have thought that 10 years later, her son He Jihua would almost always score the lowest in his class? He was so far behind that even the second lowest scorer was significantly ahead of him. This was only in elementary school, and she dared not think about the future. Lu Sui had confidence in her ability to teach every child entrusted to her, except her own son. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but laugh wryly. Across the table from her was Liang Shanshan, one of Lu Sui's former students. Lu Sui considered herself a mentor to Liang Shanshan. Back then, Liang Shanshan's college entrance exam score was just 1 point above the cutoff for first-tier universities. Liang's parents had never attended college and lacked the time and energy to study the college application guides. They had no idea what schools their daughter could apply to. When the results came out, Liang Shanshan felt both joy and anxiety. She was happy to have just barely made the cutoff, but worried because such a score made it difficult to choose schools. Applying to a first-tier university carried the risk of being rejected, and even if she was accepted, she would likely be placed in an unpopular major. Applying to a second-tier university was safer, but it felt like a compromise. Lu Sui had long noticed Liang Shanshan's high aspirations and knew she wouldn't be content with a second-tier school if she could make it to a first-tier. During the days when applications were being filled out, Liang Shanshan was so anxious that several large blisters appeared on the corners of her mouth. On the morning of the application deadline, Lu Sui called Liang Shanshan aside, away from the crowd. She looked into the girl's eyes and asked, "Do you dare to take a gamble? If, by any chance, you unfortunately lose, do you have the courage to try again?" Liang Shanshan bit her lip and nodded firmly. "I dare." She added, "No matter what the outcome, I trust Ms. Lu." After careful consideration and with Liang Shanshan's agreement, Lu Sui helped her apply to a first-tier teacher's college in a neighboring province, majoring in journalism. When the results came out, she wasn't accepted into the journalism program, but was instead placed in the history department. Liang Shanshan was devastated. In the provincial mock exams before the college entrance exams, Liang Shanshan hadn't answered a single multiple-choice question correctly in the history section of the comprehensive humanities test. Afterwards, in several more mock exams leading up to the college entrance exam, she only managed to get 1 or 2 history questions right each time. These experiences left her with a deep-seated aversion to history. "I feel like it's a sign. I'm absolutely not suited to study history. No matter what I study in university, as long as it's not history, I'll be fine." Lu Sui had just smiled. Lu Sui was a history teacher. Liang Shanshan couldn't accept the result of being assigned to the history department and insisted on repeating the year. Can you imagine? Someone who's the worst at history becoming a history teacher. Naturally, Liang's parents disagreed. After days of trying to persuade her at home, they eventually sought help from Lu Sui. Lu Sui remembered that evening clearly. She spent hours talking to Liang Shanshan, her mouth dry from all the talking, until Liang finally accepted the reality of studying history for the next 4 years. That night, Liang Shanshan repeatedly said, "Ms. Lu, if it weren't for you, I would never have chosen this major. Ms. Lu, you gave me the courage." In her first semester at the Teachers' University, Liang Shanshan accepted that she too would become a history teacher. Since university holidays started earlier than high school, she would sit in on Lu Sui's classes during winter and summer breaks. After the classes, she would often go to Lu's home for meals, helping out in the kitchen while Lu Sui cooked. Later, when Liang Shanshan went for job interviews, Lu Sui meticulously reviewed and revised her lesson plans and teaching materials. Liang Shanshan performed exceptionally well in her interviews, receiving offers from several schools. Deciding which school to choose was a process of back-and-forth discussions over the phone between the two. Lu Sui felt both gratified and proud. She had achieved something that even the students' parents hadn't. As memories flashed through Lu Sui's mind, she couldn't help but feel a sweet sense of satisfaction. She truly loved her students. In a way, she treated them as her own children. She helped students from poor families apply for financial aid, counseled students whose parents were divorcing, and spent days in internet cafes pulling students out of their addiction until they turned their lives around. On the night of the farewell dinner for her graduating class, every student came to toast her, and she drank each toast to the bottom. She got thoroughly drunk, and Liang Shanshan, along with another girl, carried her home. When she woke up, she was drenched in cold sweat. Not only had she drunk too much, but she had also said too much. The bits she could remember included, "My only regret in this life is not knowing what a mother's love for her child feels like. Someone told me that a mother's love for her child is so strong they'd be willing to die for them. I can't imagine that. Because I don't have my own children, I really do see you all as my children. Many people don't believe it, but it's true." She had said these words tearfully and slurringly. Luckily, it was an era before smartphones, or she would find it hard to face a replay of such scenes. That year, He Zhihua had not yet been born. Or rather, even if He Zhihua had been born, she would not have been his mother. Because that year, Lu Sui had not yet decided to adopt a child. As Liang Shanshan swished slices of beef in the hot pot, she casually asked if everything was all right since the phone call had lasted quite a while. Lu Sui said it was nothing. Liang Shanshan continued, mentioning that she hadn't seen Lu Sui's son in many years and wondered what he looked like now. Lu Sui pulled out a photo of He Zhihua on her phone. Liang Shanshan exaggeratedly praised He Zhihua, complimenting every aspect of his appearance. Of course, the most outrageous comment was, "He looks just like you, exactly the same." Liang Shanshan knew He Zhihua was adopted. In fact, everyone back in their hometown knew He Zhihua wasn't her biological son. Lu Sui hadn't tried to hide it back then. She had heard from her mother that some women, to pretend their adopted children were their biological ones, would stuff pillows under their clothes for several months. When the baby was brought home, some women would even wrap a cloth around their head, pretending to be new mothers who were prone to sweating and sensitive to drafts. Lu Sui had always found such acts beneath her. She had always conducted herself with transparency and integrity. Liang Shanshan's flattery, while a bit ingratiating, echoed the sentiments of many others. Coincidentally, He Zhihua shared the same characteristic bump on his nose as Lu Sui, much like the actress Lu Yifei. When He Zhihua was brought home, Lu Sui and her husband Lao He were still living in the staff housing of her previous workplace. Despite not being visibly pregnant, a newborn suddenly appeared in their home. The neighbors, understanding the situation, chose not to ask questions. Certain Chinese phrases, like adoption, were acceptable when written on paper or spoken behind closed doors, but directly asking about it was akin to slapping someone in the face. The year He Zhihua was adopted, Liang Shanshan was home for winter break during her senior year of college. At Lu Sui's home, Liang Shanshan deftly helped with sterilizing bottles, warming milk, and washing baby clothes, handling each task with ease. Lu Sui felt a bit awkward, but Liang Shanshan didn't mind. She simply said, "There's always so much to do with a baby around. When my brother was little, I helped my mom with everything every day." Time flew by, and now Liang Shanshan's daughter was already 6 years old. Last year, Liang Shanshan invited Lu Sui to visit her city for a vacation. However, due to some unexpected work commitments, Liang Shanshan couldn't accompany her, so she treated Lu Sui to 2 lavish meals instead. The food was so abundant that it barely fit on the table. When it was time for Lu Sui to leave, Liang Shanshan's husband drove her to the airport. Whenever Liang Shanshan traveled back to her hometown, she passed through the provincial capital. Since Lu Sui now lived there, she suggested meeting up and treating Liang Shanshan to a meal. As they stepped out of the hot pot restaurant after settling the bill, Liang Shanshan suddenly remarked, "Ms. Lu, you still owe me for the round-trip airfare from your trip last year." Lu Sui was taken aback. At that time, Liang Shanshan had invited her for a visit and offered to buy the tickets. Lu Sui naturally assumed that Liang Shanshan was treating her, considering all the help she had provided over the years and the numerous ways she had supported Liang Shanshan's major life events. Apart from the 2 meals Liang had treated her to, she had never made any other gestures of appreciation. Now that Liang Shanshan had brought it up, Lu Sui felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. She quickly responded, "Oh my, I completely forgot. I'm so sorry for the delay." She immediately took out her phone and transferred the money. The airfare between the neighboring provinces wasn't much, but Lu Sui felt as though a heavy stone had settled in her chest. Reflecting on her past actions, she found it laughable that she had genuinely considered her students as her own children. It had been a one-sided sentiment. After all, her students didn't see her as their mother and made sure every cent was accounted for. She doubted she would see Liang Shanshan for many years to come. Exhaling deeply, she prepared to start her car. At that moment, He Zhihua called her using his smartwatch, asking for money to buy flower seeds. Her initial reaction was to refuse, but she then sighed and agreed, telling him he could buy the seeds. He Zhihua's personality was nothing like hers when she was young. He consistently ranked last in his class and still found time to tend to plants. When she was young, she couldn't be happy unless she ranked in the top 3 of her class. They were completely different, she concluded, feeling an inexplicable sadness. She wondered if her recent preoccupation with random thoughts was related to her dwindling menstrual cycles. If she had given birth to her own child, would she have been less dedicated to her work? Maybe she wasn't as noble as she believed herself to be. She pondered the issue with Lao He, questioning why her pregnancies had never succeeded. If she had her own child, would they have been like her? Or like Lao He? Or a mix of both? Most importantly, what had she done in her past life to deserve such painful experiences? These thoughts continued to weigh on her as she drove away, feeling a profound sense of melancholy. As she pondered, a headache began to creep in. Shaking her head to clear her thoughts, she reminded herself that she couldn't delay any longer. She was already 50. Any further delay and her scant, intermittent menstrual cycles might cease altogether. Determined not to suppress her emotions any longer, she dialed Lao He. Listen carefully, what I mentioned to you before. No matter what, I'm going through with it. Whether you agree or not, I'm doing it. There's no room for negotiation. Lu Sui's voice was firm and unyielding as she delivered this ultimatum, and then she started the car. It took Lao He a moment to realize she was talking about undergoing IVF. He sighed heavily on the other end of the line. Lao He couldn't help but try to dissuade her. You know, they say by 50 you should accept your fate. Hearing the sensitive number 50, she immediately bristled. What's wrong with 50? Does 50 mean I'm too old to do anything? Chu Shijian started growing oranges at 70. I'm only 50, why can't I try? Lao He, exasperated by her shouting, lost his patience as well. Can you really compare yourself to those famous, successful people? And what you're trying to do, is it comparable to growing trees? They grow trees throughout the seasons, during warm weather. But you're talking about getting pregnant. You couldn't succeed when you were young. Why insist on trying now? You're not someone who just won't turn back until you hit a brick wall. You're someone who keeps bashing their head against it, even after you've hit it. Not having children was the greatest pain of her life. Lao He's words were harsh and cut deep. Feeling a mix of grievance, shame, and guilt, she started to cry. Yes, I've wronged you all my life. You're a man with no physical problems, and yet you don't have your own children. But don't think I didn't suffer. Think about how many times I've had miscarriages for you. Lao He fell silent, wanting to console her, but unsure of what to say. I just want to try one more time. What if, just what if, a miracle happens? Lao He couldn't stop sighing. You're out of your mind. We didn't know about this technology when we were younger, and your problem was never getting pregnant but carrying to term, so we never tried IVF. Exactly, we never tried. But now we're old. Our son is growing up. Do we really need to gamble on this? Is it really necessary? She nodded vigorously, crying, Yes, it is necessary. Lao He, now irritated, snapped, You're delusional. It's never going to work. Why not? She retorted, sending him the public account article. The article told a true story about a 52-year-old woman who, after losing her only daughter in a car accident, chose to undergo IVF and successfully gave birth to another daughter. It was from the famous reproductive hospital's recent headlines. She had read it at least 10 times. If a 52-year-old could do it, why couldn't she at 50? 50 and knowing one's fate. She refused to accept it. So what? Back home, He Zhihua had already begun tinkering with the seeds he bought on the balcony. As he dug into the soil of the flower pot with a shovel, He Zhihua remarked, Mom, did you know that hyacinth bulbs look like garlic before they bloom? Curious, Lu Sui went over to take a look. Indeed, they looked quite similar to garlic. She was amazed and held a hyacinth seed in her hand, examining it closely. It truly resembled garlic, especially the purple-skinned kind. Lu Sui asked, with the seeds looking like this, what will the flowers look like when they bloom? He Zhihua leisurely replied, I don't know. I bought a hyacinth seed blind box. The shop owner told me it's hyacinth, but we'll only know the specific type when it blooms. So grown up. Lu Sui chuckled and ruffled his hair. Don't touch my head. Mom, you're messing up my hair. He Zhihua protested. Lu Sui smiled, seeing her son growing up and starting to pay attention to his appearance. She had initially wanted to talk to He Zhihua about his 38 points, but seeing him engrossed in playing with the flower pot, she couldn't bear to interrupt his excitement. She watched He Zhihua play with the flower pot, feeling a sense of warmth in her heart. Perhaps it was the effect of the recent public article. He Zhihua's attitude was not as strong as before. Before going to bed, He Zhihua was lying on the bed scrolling through his phone, looking a bit worried. He smacked his lips and said, Do you really want to do IVF? Lu Sui responded with a simple, yes. He Zhihua continued, I've also looked up a lot of information. IVF doesn't guarantee success. The case you sent me was truly a miracle. Otherwise, hospitals wouldn't be promoting it so vigorously. This is something that costs money and effort. At our age, the result is entirely dependent on luck. Lu Sui interrupted him. So what? I just want to give it a try. Lu Sui is currently working at a private high school. Last year, their family moved to the provincial capital. There was no particular reason, but as their child grew up, Lu Sui began to feel fear creeping up on her, belatedly realizing the potential risks. The fact that their child was adopted was known to all. Not only her colleagues, but also many of her students were aware of it. She feared that if someone were to say something inappropriate to her child, it might trigger strong emotions and lead to drastic behavior. In her younger years, she had only pursued honesty and straightforwardness. She never imagined that honesty would also come with its own costs. Last year, when Lauhi was transferred to the provincial capital by the higher authorities, a private school in the city also offered her a job opportunity. If not now, then when would they move? Regarding the matter of undergoing IVF, Lauhi remained reasonable and, after considering for several days, agreed. As Lu Sui pondered over this matter, she concluded that it was crucial to keep two people in the dark. One was her 10-year-old son, He Jihua. At least the cause and effect had to be concealed. Otherwise, it would be not worth the risk of exposing her son's origins. Having raised him for a decade, despite sometimes feeling that He Jihua was not the son she had envisioned, she had no intention of hurting him in any way. If he were to learn the truth, He Jihua's world would collapse. The other person was her sister, Lu Mai. Back then, He Jihua was brought to them by Lu Mai after countless efforts at their hospital's obstetrics and gynecology department. When He Jihua was born, he was incredibly good-looking. Even as a baby, with his large eyes and high nose bridge, his delicate features were evident, and the medical staff couldn't bear to let him go. He Jihua's birth mother was a high school student under 16 years old. It was said that when she arrived at the hospital, a woman in her 30s accompanied her, claiming to be her older sister. But soon after the birth, both of them fled. In their hospital, Lu Mai had a female colleague who couldn't conceive. She also set her eyes on He Jihua as a newborn. For the sake of her younger sister, Lu Mai went all out. Lu Mai even got into a physical altercation with her female colleague, both ending up with bleeding lips. But Lu Mai emerged victorious. Lu Sui thought that if Lu Mai were to find out that she, at almost menopausal age, was still considering IVF, she might be subjected to harsh words. So, both of these individuals had to be kept in the dark. The high school at the private school was busier than the public school. When the summer vacation finally arrived, Lu Sui finally had the opportunity to undergo IVF. She left He Jihua with her mother, using the excuse of attending teacher training. No one seemed to suspect anything. On the first day at the hospital, Lu Sui felt like she was opening the door to a new world. Initially, Lu Sui felt a bit embarrassed about wanting to undergo IVF at the age of 50. On the day of the medical appointment, there was a rural couple in front of them at the hospital. They both appeared to be in their 40s. Moreover, neither seemed to have normal intelligence. Accompanying them was a woman in her 30s with short hair, holding a thick stack of A4 papers, presumably medical records. The doctor earnestly advised the couple against undergoing IVF, saying, even if the child is born normal, raising them is a significant burden. The couple remained silent, seemingly indifferent, with empty gazes wandering around. The woman with short hair said, "That's okay. Someone will take care of the child when they're born. My mom wants my brother and sister-in-law to have a child to carry on our family line." The doctor's gaze seemed stern, and his tone was serious. In their case, they must undergo 3 generations of IVF, which is costly and may still fail. Can your family accept that? The woman with short hair nodded. They must. My mom sold pigs just for my brother and sister-in-law to try. The doctor shook his head. You'll have to be here every time they come for treatment. There will be many tests, and I'm afraid they won't understand anything. The woman with short hair was straightforward. I have to be here. It's a task assigned to me by my family. Lu Sui thought to herself, if people like them were undergoing IVF, why couldn't she give it a try? It inexplicably brought her some comfort. The right to bear children was a fundamental human right. Even those with intellectual disabilities should not be deprived of it. When it was Lao He and Lu Sui's turn, Lao He went to close the door of the consultation room. The reproductive doctor's questions were always detailed, even asking about Lu Sui's age at menarche. Do you have children? Yes. How old is he? He's 10. The doctor, typing away on the keyboard, glanced at her with an unfriendly tone. At your age, to be honest, it's quite a stretch. If you have children, there's no need to mess around like this. It's a bit of a waste of medical resources. Lu Sui weakly replied, I didn't mean to waste resources. My child is adopted. She told the doctor that she had thought of trying IVF after reading news on a public account. The doctor appeared unimpressed. Her case is an exception. At your age, don't hold any expectations. He then asked, how many pregnancies have you had, and how many miscarriages?
Lu Sui answered, 10 pregnancies, 10 miscarriages.
The doctor glanced at her sympathetically. Suddenly, Lao He tightly squeezed her hand. Each time, when did the miscarriages occur? Were there any late-term miscarriages? Each time was within the first 3 months. They naturally miscarried. The doctor continued asking questions, while Lao He checked his watch. It took 15 minutes before the doctor handed over the examination form. Exiting the room, it was Lao He who couldn't hold up. He leaned against the corridor wall, sweat dripping from his forehead. Lu Sui mocked him. What's wrong? I'm the one suffering from IVF, not you. What are you afraid of? Lao He confessed, back then, when you couldn't get out of bed after each miscarriage, crying in agony, I felt terrible too. Although I agreed to your IVF earlier and accompanied you here, it wasn't until just now that I seemed to understand why you wanted to do this.
Lu Sui smiled. Oh?
Why don't you tell me? Lao He's hoarse voice was full of compassion. I only remember that when we were young, you were always getting pregnant and miscarrying. I can't even recall how many times it happened. I never expected you to remember so clearly, a total of 10 times. Lu Sui was moved. She said, at that time, I kept miscarrying and everyone would give suggestions, saying that my frequent miscarriages were due to my unstable uterus. The reason for the unstable uterus was supposedly because I worked too hard, and both openly and covertly, I was criticized for not focusing on my family. But in later pregnancies, even when I took leave and lay in bed all day to protect the fetus, the child would still be lost. Lao He agreed, yes, I always found it strange. You clearly had good health. When you weren't pregnant, you swam, climbed mountains, ran, played sports vigorously and shouldn't have. Recalling the past, Lu Sui's eyes became moist. I've blamed myself 10,000 times in this life, always wondering if I did something wrong, ate something wrong. Who would have thought that today? The doctor would say that our frequent miscarriages are likely due to chromosome problems on both sides, leading to frequent miscarriages. Lao He echoed, who could have imagined all this? We're not reproductive specialists. Lying on the gynecological examination bed. Since adopting He Jihua, Lu Sui hadn't undergone any gynecological examinations. Actually, both her previous and current workplaces arranged annual physical examinations, which included costly gynecological tests that she had to pay for herself. But she couldn't explain why. She just didn't want to undergo gynecological examinations anymore. This time, if it weren't for the IVF, she probably wouldn't have checked. Yes, her health had always been excellent throughout her life, rarely even catching a cold. But she had undergone several surgeries, dilation and curettage procedures. Each time she couldn't hold onto a pregnancy and had to give up in the end, surgery was needed to clean everything out. Many years had passed, and she couldn't remember whether she was under anesthesia during those surgeries. All she remembered was pain. But she had never mentioned her pain to anyone, not even to her own mother or her sister Lu Mai. Who knows, if they said something like, it's not as painful as childbirth, they might just brush her off. When the gynecologist used the speculum to open her body, a long-forgotten tearing sensation came. Every person who comes into this world, their mother undergoes tearing. Sometimes when she looked at her son, she would also feel a pang of remembrance. Lu Mai said that He Jihua was born naturally, weighing 6 pounds and 5 ounces. She couldn't help but wonder, did his birth mother experience tearing? Once, she couldn't help but ask Lu Mai. Lu Mai said no. No tearing, no episiotomy. The birth was extremely smooth. It was just short of happening in the toilet. Oh, stop thinking about it. Just consider him as your own child. All right, you can get up now. The doctor interrupted her train of thought. Lao He held the examination form in his hand. Although they anticipated the difficulties they would face, the results were not optimistic. The results of the first round of tests showed the biggest problem. While Lu Sui still had basic follicles, the quantity was extremely low. 1 on the left ovary, 2 on the right. The chromosome results would take 2 weeks to come out. The outpatient doctor had already started giving her preventive injections to lower her expectations. Being over 40 years old, having so many previous miscarriages, you must undergo 3 generations of IVF. With just this few follicles, and poor quality at that, it's uncertain whether they can be fertilized into embryos and developed into blastocysts. Even if blastocysts are developed, they still need genetic testing. It's very likely that you'll end up with nothing after all this. You need to be mentally prepared for this. After the doctor's words, Lu Sui's heart turned cold. Lu Sui's decision to undergo IVF treatment became known to her sister. It all started when their 78-year-old mother got pneumonia, and Lu Mai joined a rural medical support team. Lu Sui had to interrupt her IVF treatment. Lu Mai wasn't pleased when she saw Lu Sui. You and Lao He are so used to being carefree. You go off to play during the summer vacation, leaving the child with the foreign grandma. You have no sense of responsibility. How can people like you be parents? Lu Sui, feeling agitated by her abrupt accusation, retorted swiftly, "You're the one who's responsible? This time it's my turn to handle mom's matter." With one word from each side, the argument escalated rapidly. Lao He stood by, neither listening nor intervening. As the argument intensified, Lu Sui's temper flared up. "You claim to have a sense of responsibility. Then let's be fair. Since mom is sick, you shouldn't think of running away either. One of us will be responsible during the day and the other at night. You choose first." The next day, Lu Mai was about to set off, so she couldn't possibly choose. She turned to Lao He for help. Unable to hold back, Lao He told Lu Mai about Lu Sui's IVF treatment. Instead of understanding, Lu Mai launched into a tirade, criticizing them for being reckless. "Such a big decision. Have you considered how He Hua feels? Have you thought it through?" Lao He, unhappy with being blamed, also found Lu Mai's attitude a bit overbearing. "Of course, we've considered it. That's why we're not keeping it from him." Lu Mai found it ridiculous. Can you really keep it a secret? What if Lu Sui really gets pregnant? At this age, aren't you afraid of being ridiculed? Lu Sui's voice rang out, devoid of any emotion. "There's nothing funny about a 50-year-old woman getting pregnant, and I'm not afraid of ridicule. But women who keep getting pregnant and can't give birth, now that's something to be laughed at by others." Her words were too blunt, leaving Lu Mai stunned. "No, that's not what I meant." Lu Sui interrupted her. "What did you mean then?" Lu Mai hesitated. "What I meant was, is it meaningful to think about doing IVF now?" Suddenly, Lu Sui raised her voice. "Meaningful? How isn't it meaningful? No one understands my pain in this matter, including you." Lu Mai felt a bit aggrieved by being shouted at, and memories from the past resurfaced. "Right? No one understands you. I don't understand your pain. Would I have fought someone at the hospital for you? I adopted a child for you. Do I have a problem?" Lao He, anxious, checked the windows and doors. "Lower your voices, you two. Be careful, the walls have ears. If He Hua hears this, I wonder how you'll handle it." The two sisters ignored him, continuing to throw verbal bombs at each other. Refusing to back down, Lu Sui said defiantly, "Yes, you've saved my life, but you act like a saint, like you're so great. I'll tell you, you really don't understand me. No matter what you do, you'll never understand me." Lu Mai crossed her arms, sneering, "We're both women. What can't I understand about you?" That seemed to hit a nerve with Lu Sui. Suddenly feeling overwhelmed, she squatted down, tears falling heavily. "Yes, we're both women. Lu Mai, do you know what the fundamental difference between you and me is? You've given birth, and I haven't. In this world, women are fundamentally divided not by wealth or beauty, not by education or marriage. The biggest difference among women in this world is whether they've given birth or not. Even the difference between those who've been married and those who haven't isn't as significant. Having given birth or not, that's the biggest difference. These words left Lu Mai utterly bewildered. After a while, Lu Mai slumped into a chair, saying weakly, I always thought that day when you came to me in tears, saying you had finally come to terms with it, that you would never try again in this lifetime, and asking me to keep an eye out at the hospital for any unwanted babies, it meant you had accepted it. Later, Hihua came, and you neither regretted it nor resisted. I saw you busying yourself every day, happily preparing formula, diapers, various baby clothes, pants, toys, and even sneakily reading parenting books. I thought you had accepted it, but it wasn't until today that I realized your obsession with having your own child runs so deep. I thought you had accepted the child. No, you thought you had accepted it, but in reality, you never did. Lu Sui sneered. Never accepted what? Didn't accept the child? Before you start spouting nonsense, can you provide any evidence? How haven't I accepted it? Haven't accepted it, and I would have sold several houses, moved to a new city, and started over from scratch? Am I out of my mind? Am I sick? Lu Mai shook her head weakly. I can't argue with you. You know your own heart. Despite her verbal support, Lu Mai secretly transferred 20,000 yuan to Lu Sui. Her reason was that IVF treatment was expensive and taxing on the body, so she should eat well and take care of her health. She even forbade her from refusing to accept it. That confrontation with Lu Mai made Lu Sui reflect. Lu Mai said that Lu Sui had an obsession with having her own child.
Liu Sui disagreed.
She admitted that she did indeed have an obsession, but it seemed that it wasn't about having her own child. But what exactly was her obsession? She still hadn't figured it out. Of course, she had to face it eventually. With her son Hihua, Lu Sui didn't plan to lie, but she also didn't feel the need to reveal the whole truth. She simply told her son that she and old he were considering having another child. In the future, there might be some changes in the family. Hihua asked, what changes? Lu Sui said, maybe there will be a little brother or sister. To her surprise, Hihua was quite happy. I've been wanting a little brother or sister. This answer astonished Lu Sui and warmed her heart. Tentatively, she asked, you're not against it? Hihua found it puzzling. Against what? I've always felt that you and Dad pay too much attention to me. Lu Sui raised an eyebrow. Oh. Hihua didn't reply, but instead opened the fridge and asked Lu Sui, Mom, which piece of meat in the fridge is pork? I need a piece of lean pork for something. Lu Sui bent down to fetch a piece of meat from the fridge. Bought it yesterday. Why? Don't feel like eating your favorite beef today. Wanna try pork for a change? Hihua rolled his eyes. The pork isn't for me. It's for Cricket. He had recently bought a cricket, and the shopkeeper instructed that it needed to be fed meat once a week to supplement its nutrition. The meat had to be pork, cooked and cut into thumbnail-sized thin slices. Lu Sui leaned against the kitchen door and talked to Hihua. You haven't finished what you were saying. Your dad and I pay too much attention to you. Hihua turned around. Yes, you've paid too much attention to me since I was little. Even when we went to the amusement park, both you and Dad were watching me. So, if you have another child, it would actually be good. It could take some of your attention away from me. Lu Sui smiled. You know that? Hihua felt it was obvious. Of course. Many of my classmates' parents are planning to have a second child, and we discuss it among ourselves too. Mom, if you really want to have another child for my sake, I'm worried. Hihua suddenly stopped, his tone hesitant. Lu Sui's heart also skipped a beat. Worried about what? Hihua sighed. Worried about your health. Hihua looked at Lu Sui, his eyes clear and bright. Mom, at your age, aren't you considered an elderly mother? When Lu Sui heard Hihua express concern about her health, she was moved almost to tears. And then to hear the term elderly mother, she couldn't help but find it amusing. These children nowadays, they understand everything and dare to say anything. The thin slices of meat for Cricket were cooked. Hua carefully used kitchen paper to soak up the water from the slices. Lu Sui teased him, "So quickly changing interests now? Not interested in planting your hyacinths anymore? Your hyacinths haven't even bloomed yet." Hua said, "The hyacinth sprouts have already grown. Let's just wait and see if they bloom." Lu Sui previously had no concept of various plants, but watching Hua plant flowers this time, she had a deep impression of these seeds that resembled garlic. Indeed, the hyacinth sprouts looked a lot like garlic shoots. She was a bit curious. What would the hyacinth flowers look like? Initially, she planned to search online, but then she decided against it. She'd just wait for them to bloom. Most likely, they would bloom. During this period, she had come to understand a lot. Although she didn't know if her love for her son could reach the level she had heard about many years ago, a mother's love for her child is a kind of love that can be loved to death. But she felt that she should love her son, Hua, doing his laundry, cooking for him, helping him with his homework, all without complaint. Her insistence on doing IVF wasn't actually about having another child. In fact, she didn't even want to get pregnant again and give birth to another child through IVF. In her life, she felt that having Hua was enough. As for whether her love for him could reach the point of being loved to death, perhaps she would only know when something significant happened. Maybe, as a family, they would live a simple and ordinary life, and she would never be able to prove it until death. Her mindset was completely different from that of the woman she had read about on the public account, a mother of the same age who had joyfully given birth to a daughter at 52. She underwent IVF just to get an answer. Yes, just one answer. Lu Sui's mother's pneumonia has been treated. The chromosome results for Lu Sui and Lao He have also come out. To the doctor's surprise, there was no problem with their chromosomes. The doctor pondered and said, "Chromosome is fine. With so many miscarriages, the reasons are complex." Lao He asked how complex it could be. The doctor explained that there are many reasons for multiple miscarriages after natural conception. First is chromosomal abnormalities, both in the couple's chromosomes and in the embryo's chromosomes. It could also be due to hormonal imbalances in the mother's body, various underlying diseases in the mother's body, and so on, all of which could lead to miscarriages. Since Lu Sui is healthy and none of these conditions apply to her, the most likely cause is either abnormal immune function or genetic issues in both partners. The doctor leaned back in the chair and said, "Actually, there's no need to investigate further. At your age, your ovaries are basically retiring, and even if we find out, the likelihood of success is too low." Lu Sui laid out her thoughts and earnestly requested the doctor to find out the reason. "I don't want to have children anymore, and I don't even want to do IVF or any similar procedures. I just want to understand where the problem lies between me and my spouse." The doctor smiled bitterly and was a bit annoyed. "Don't want to have children? Just want to find out the reason? You should have made your intentions clear earlier." Yes, she should have made her intentions clear earlier. But before this, she didn't understand what she was striving for. People often have to go through experiences to understand, don't they? After drawing a few tubes of blood, the recommended genetic sequencing test was completed. Apart from being expensive, there were no other issues. Due to privacy protection, the results of such tests cannot be directly sent to the phone and must be personally collected from the hospital. On the day of collecting the report, Lu Sui insisted on going by herself. There was a small incident while going to collect the report. Unexpectedly, in the corridor of the reproductive hospital, she saw Liang Shanshan. She overheard Liang Shanshan asking the patient next to her, "Can you choose the gender for test tube babies?" Although she was curious why Liang Shanshan chose to do IVF in a city far from where she worked, she didn't greet her and went straight to the window of the laboratory to collect the report. In front of Lu Sui was a family of 5, a couple, a baby in the mother's arms, and 2 elderly people, whether grandparents or others, it was unclear. It's rare to see a baby in a reproductive hospital, and people looked at them frequently. The baby's skin was red, with a blank expression, visibly abnormal. Lu Sui stepped back a few steps, lowered her head, and played with her phone. It was offensive to casually stare at others suffering. The baby's father cursed at the staff of the laboratory. "I spent over 100,000 in your hospital for IVF, And what did you help me achieve? Don't tell me we didn't do genetic testing back then. My wife and I just wanted a child. How would we understand the twists and turns of your hospital? The commotion was too loud, and soon the security personnel arrived. The family of 5 was all taken away. Lu Sui got the genetic testing report for her and Lao He. After reading the last line of the report, she felt a sense of relief and joy in her heart that she had never experienced before. She and Lao He had overlapping genetic loci with multiple recessive disease-causing genes. In other words, each of her miscarriages was her body's self-protection mechanism, preventing her from giving birth to a child with serious issues. So that's how it was. It turns out that was the case. It's heaven's will. The phone rang. He Jihua called her, sounding extremely excited. Mom, the hyacinths I planted have bloomed. Hyacinths actually bloom purple, in small clusters, like clusters of grapes. It's so cute. Hurry home and take a look. Lu Sui was so happy that tears welled up in her eyes, and she replied, All right, I'll be there soon, son. Flowers are heartless yet have affection. Although He Jihua didn't pass the exam, he wasn't stupid. He just wasn't good at exams. Lao He was more worried about their son's grades than she was, sighing frequently. She comforted him. Do you know how serious the mental health issues are for teenagers nowadays? Depression, anxiety, jumping off buildings, cutting wrists. At least our son is physically and mentally healthy. What's the big deal if his grades are a little low? Lao He joked with her. These words don't sound like they're coming from a special grade teacher. She smiled and said, I've long realized that even if every student in the class is excellent, there will always be one at the bottom. Besides, our son is already making progress, isn't he? She comforted herself that the world is a wilderness, not a track. If her son loves plants so much, opening a flower shop in the future would be great. She would definitely support him wholeheartedly. People don't necessarily have to live up to a certain standard, because everyone's soul seeds are different. Just like hyacinth seeds may resemble garlic, they cannot be used for cooking. Mothers are the same. In this world, there are mothers who love their children to the point of sacrificing everything, and there are mothers who love quietly, not as grandly. You can't say that one kind of love is noble and the other is base. Lu Sui thought of her son He Jihua, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but turn up. She turned the car key and started the car. For some reason, she felt that the car was particularly smooth today. Even though the speed was not fast and there were bustling traffic, she felt like she was in a realm of her own, with a sense of effortless freedom.